So I made the mistake of watching some of the Brotherly Love video podcast after work today, which is
Okay.
Joey Lawrence, Matthew Lawrence, and Andy Lawrence. And I was hoping for just some shenanigans, and things got real quick. It's a dark show. Like Joey Lawrence has like personal trainer bro vibe. It's kind
Yeah,
of cool. He seems like a good dude.
sure.
Andy Lawrence seems like anarchy. Um, and then Matthew Lawrence seems like chill, normal Richard Roper guy, but then we'll say something like, "Ooh, it was pretty intense, like real quick." Like allegedly, Matthew Lawrence was up for like a Marvel role, and his agency kind of like basically put him in like a Harvey Weinstein-esque position to win the role, and he like turned it down, and he got fired from his agency for it. And it's so weird because like while he's telling the story, like Andy Lawrence and Joey Lawrence are almost like making fun of him. So it's like really strange. I expected it just to be kind of a lark. And then like when I see like the Christy Carlson Romano YouTube channel
Yeah.
or the Lawrence brothers YouTube channel, it's like watching Apocalypse Now. It's like you just get further and further like upriver, and you're just like, what is going on? We are here for a mailbag episode. Really excited.
Yeah.
Love these weeks.
Although
It's
I feel like you should probably just go and watch this Lawrence thing now because this sounds really exciting.
yeah, cocaine's a hell of a drug, apparently. Yeah, we love the mailbag episodes because it gives us a week off of having to watch stuff, but it also, more importantly, gives us a week to interact with all of you.
Mhm.
So, thank you for submitting your questions. I was nervous about losing the questions because I was having Twitter issues today, but I got them back.
Good.
So, let's start with review the world. Rank these 2004 films: Garden State, Napoleon Dynamite, and I Heart Huckabees. He saw them all at the multiplex, and it felt like a moment. And I would agree with that sentiment. It definitely felt like a certain young guy indie kind of like trying to hit the masses type of thing. Like I read your journal type of day, type of year.
This song will change your life kind of year.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah, I was all right. So 2004, I'm a junior in high school, depending on when these movies come out,
Okay.
and I am very much the prime audience for most of these. I'm gonna go. Having only watched Garden State of these three in the last 10 years or so, I'm just winging this. I'm just gonna go with how I felt mostly at the time. I have to go Dynamite Huckabee's Garden State because I have to go with my heart on this. And
So Garden State is number one.
Huckabee's is real problematic, not to use that word these days, but I haven't watched it in a while. Garden State's the only one I've watched recently, and I still retain a lot of affection for that movie, even though it's so just young guy nonsense.
Yeah. If we're doing classic F Mary Kill, I'm
Okay.
killing I Heart Huckabees right away. I saw that once in theaters and I found it really hard to sit through.
Okay.
It's not my I preferred, I don't really like David O. Russell anymore for obvious reasons, but like I preferred his kind of the fighter Silver Linings Playbook era.
Era.
Um Napoleon Dynamite I always think is funny. I haven't seen it in a long
It's
time.
just
I'm
one of those
looking
movies that's not a me movie. Like I just never was super into it.
I dig its randomness.
Mhm.
I like how odd the characters are. I bristle a little bit at how much he's making fun of them. It's but I'm curious to rewatch it for its 20th anniversary next year. Same thing with Garden State. I think it's tough. I will go with probably Napoleon Dynamite as my favorite
Mhm.
of the three. Garden State, I have very similar feelings to you and probably a lot of other people, where some of it is like really interesting and some of it is just like really embarrassing, and some of it is just, I can vibe on the music and just kind of it's very of its time. It's very 2004. I had just graduated from college that summer, I was definitely in my whole "what does it all mean" phase, so it touched me in that regard. But it's a good question. I will know more next year when I rewatch all of them.
All right, next question comes from your friend Chase. What was the first movie you remember sneak watching that you knew you'd get in trouble if your parents caught you?
I have two answers. One, I don't. My parents would never like get on my case about sneak watching something. I always had in my head that they would get mad at me, even
Right.
though in reality they probably wouldn't. I remembered being really intrigued by RoboCop when it
Mhm.
first showed up on cable in like 1988. I was 6. I was too young to watch RoboCop because my parents had seen it and they said it was way too violent, which they were right for a 6-year old.
Sure.
Um, I remember kind of like standing by the cable box and then like hitting the buttons and then hearing a noise and then hitting the buttons
Yeah.
and then hearing a noise where they went away and then hitting the buttons and then sneaking peeks at RoboCop. But then like when I would see like Peter Weller get shot up at the beginning, I'm just like, oh yeah, maybe they were right. Maybe I'm not ready for this. The other one, and this is for a completely different reason, is I for some reason had a phobia of Christmas movies when I was younger because I'm Jewish, and I thought that my parents would think I'm renouncing my religion if I watched
Oh,
Christmas stuff. They never told me this. I decided this for myself. So when I would sneak and watch like Ernest Saves Christmas or the Bozo Christmas special on WGN, I would always do the thing where like and everything like that. But yeah, I decided for myself that Christmas movies were not for this young Jewish boy. And then I asked my parents about it years later, and they were just like, "What are you talking about? We would have totally let you watch
yeah.
those if you wanted to."
I don't remember anything my parents would ever let me watch because my parents didn't really supervise me in that way. But I do remember watching stuff and having the remote control preset to another channel that I could switch to quickly. Like sometimes you hit the last button on the thing. So I would watch
Yeah,
something like if I put something on that I knew I wasn't supposed to watch or I didn't think I was supposed to watch like you, and I would always go to another channel, like a safe channel, like the
sure,
news or whatever, and then go back so that I had it preset that if somebody came in, I could just hit the last and I'll be watching
smart,
Walter
very smart.
Cronkite or something I would never be watching. But the one movie specific story that I do have is, which is again a weird way to answer this question, but when my mother and grandmother went to see Titanic, when Titanic was taking over the world, I remember I asked if I could go. I believe I had not seen it yet. I believe this was my first time seeing it. I remember I saw Titanic at least twice in theaters. But my mom, my mom covered my eyes for the boobies because
Yeah,
this is 97, so I'm 11 years old, 12 years old maybe.
yeah,
Mom covers my eyes, and but then I remember getting like it was the thing where I could see out of one, but I
yeah.
didn't tell her
These windows have blinds.
exactly. But I didn't say anything to her, right? So
Yeah.
I saw I'm sitting there like this. I'm like, oh, I can't. Are there? What is this? Are there boobs? What's happening? I don't know. But I totally saw the boobs. I totally saw them.
Yeah, I remember getting booby blocked in theaters for Nowhere to Run and for White Men Can't Jump and
Yeah,
being annoyed. And I was just like, I'm like, you better use your hand because the fingers have blinds.
yeah,
If it's
exactly.
okay. So our next question comes from Chris. Would you rather run a one-screen repertory movie theater now or run a first run multiplex from whatever era you were a teenager during?
Era.
So Rob, what would you choose?
This is an Adam Risky question. You know that this is the I don't have an answer to this question. This is all Adam. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I did work in a movie theater for 3 days when I was a teenager in 1998. I remember we had Bulworth, Deep Impact, Almost Heroes, and Pauly playing at the theater. It was horrible. I hated working there because I wanted to work at the box office or do something fun, and I just was stuck behind a concession stand for 3 days. So I would not want to run that because it ruined movie theaters for me for like 3 weeks. And I feel like if I ran one in the 90s, I wouldn't have the love of 90s cinema that I did. I would just think of it as a job.
Right.
So I always, as I'm sure all of us are like, we love to curate, we love to kind of like make believe of like if I owned a theater, I would do it this way. And like, of course, I would run a repertory theater and not a first run theater nowadays. I have an entire column that I write with Patrick once a month where we can play act having a theater called the Linderground Cinema Rink that has an adjoining skating rink with it. So that's what I want. I want to do I want to do double features that are programmed by Patrick and myself at our one screen repertory theater.
Let's see. Michael Brandt. I'm convinced that Passengers 2016, a movie that does not exist, would have worked if the audience found out about Chris Pratt the same time Jennifer Lawrence did, spoilers, rather than from the beginning. What
Mm-hmm.
movies do you think have a flaw you could have easily fixed? This is a good question. I like this one, Michael.
How many do you have? Because I have a whole list.
I have a whole list as well.
Okay, why don't we just go one? I'll say one, you say
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead.
All right, my first one is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I have two things from this.
Okay.
One, you have a movie there with Escape from Volcano Island. You
Yes.
don't need more than that.
Right.
That's your whole movie. That's one. That doesn't have to be a first act, and then we move to Jurassic Mansion.
Spectre. Get rid of that Blofeld is his brother shit. Get rid of that.
Or yeah, I'm on the architect of all your pain, and
Yeah.
everything that preceded it was a master plan that was bullshit.
Bullshit.
My next one is Sunshine. I know this is a controversial choice. I am not a fan of evil ship captain in the third act. I think you have a perfectly fine movie. I understand thematically, especially like in regards to Blank Check, just talking about this, that there is a reason for it. I understand it, but it was too close to Event Horizon when it
Yeah.
came out. All it felt like was you were copying Event Horizon.
The Departed. Get rid of the rat at the end.
Jurassic World Dominion, get rid of the locusts.
Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which is otherwise a perfect movie. Get rid of the homophobia. My son watches that movie and he loves it, and we have to skip over the homophobic part every time.
Clerks 3, don't kill people.
Stop. The Great Gatsby by Baz Luhrmann. Get rid of that. The Great Thing. Get rid of it.
Creed 3, I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
One, you had the opportunity to turn Adonis into Rocky
Mhm.
and have the Jonathan Majors character be the underdog, to be almost the Rocky character where he's like not the mentor, but he's the bruiser that you have to turn into a solid citizen and man of the people. Um, Also, I yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, just I felt like there were more parallels to Rocky Balboa in the Jonathan Majors character than in the Adonis character. At that point, it would make more sense for him to be the mentor.
Last Action Hero, a movie that I deeply love, but that third act, as Patrick and I discussed on our podcast, is not good. You gotta go bigger with the third act. If you're gonna talk about bringing people out of movies, you got to bring them out of the movie.
Our next question comes from Brian. It's spring, so how about some birth slash rebirth slash renewal film suggestions? So okay, I'll start with birth.
Mm.
This is fairly obvious. I'll say Look Who's Talking because I think that the movie approaches it from multiple interesting angles. The man child who needs to grow up and step
Yeah.
up because he's now a father figure in a child's life. The new mother and that whole thing about like how hard it is to transition from being an independent person to being a parent. And then also seeing the world through the eyes of Bruce Willis as a baby.
I went with when I was thinking of spring, I went with starting over or refresh. I went with more of that, where it was like kind of like I looked at it as get things off your chest, feel better, start over. So for me, I went with Paris, Texas, the Wim Wenders movie.
I want to
Um,
see that. I have to see that.
it's a sad bastard movie, but it's a
Yeah.
really good, like introspective, like my life was spent in this way, and I'm wondering how I felt about it thing. Um,
Mhm.
I found myself really surprised that I picked this one, but I also picked the Darjeeling Limited, which
Okay.
is one of my least favorite Wes Anderson movies. But recently rewatching it, finding it a big mess, but also really cathartic to watch, especially if I was thinking of it in terms of like renewing relationships with siblings. Maybe you go through a trauma in your family and it's kind of about starting over, again keeping with that theme. And then the other one that stood out to me was Locke, a movie that I always defend, always love with Tom Hardy. And it's essentially just a guy in the car and he's calling people and he's making up for mistakes and he's apologizing and he's trying to get everything he's done wrong off his chest and try to figure out what to do after that. And I really like that a lot. I like the way that movie approaches its themes, and I'll always go to bat for that one.
Rebirth, Cloud Atlas, whole thing is reincarnation,
100%.
doing our lives better the next time. Renewal, I thought of three. One is from what you said with Locke, I just thought of Phone Booth. That's another good one where it's just shedding yourself of the vanity and the bullshit and just being real with people. There's Sleeping with the Enemy, starting your life over, turning your back on harmful relationships, abusive relationships. I really love Julia Roberts' character in that movie and how she plays it, because it's not, I turn into Laurie Strode,
Right.
Linda Hamilton. She's a very realistic version of a survivor. It's very good. Like I think I watched it 2 times in the past few years, and I think it's way better than I remembered it being.
Nice.
And then Saturday Night Fever, that's another one where it's just kind of ridding yourselves of all the bullshit and then taking your first awkward steps into the life that you want for yourself. What, we got one more question from Miko.
Yeah, Miko. How's it going, bud?
Hey, Miko. We lost Harry Belafonte recently, which got him thinking about Beetlejuice. So what is our favorite end of movie dancing scenes?
This is the end, the Backstreet Boys sequence at the end.
Yeah. Okay.
I really like that one a lot. I'll do another one. Empire Records, a movie that Patrick and I just talked about, and I have some regrets about that podcast because we had to speed through it for some various reasons, and I didn't get to say everything. Neither of us really got to say everything we wanted to say, and I was fairly critical of that movie when it's a movie I deeply love.
I will go with Inland Empire. It's a movie that I find an eternal slog, and I do not like. It's one of the few David Lynch movies I don't like. But that whole like dance sequence to Nina Simone on the end credits feels like you're getting a reward for getting through it in the same way that Laura Dern's character is.
And then my last one. This is actually the first one that popped into my head when I read this question. And Adam, I apologize. I know this is a movie you don't like very much, but Jojo Rabbit. The end of Jojo Rabbit with Thomason in the doorway, just doing her little just improvised dance moment. I find the end of that movie really cathartic.
And then for me, this is a trope that I like that kind of pops up every once in a while. It's when the cast does the Soul Train dance line at the end of the movie during the end credits. It's so cheap. It's almost like having bloopers in your credits, but I like in This Christmas, I always remember that because it's always like young cast and old cast. So like when Delroy Lindo's turn to dance, they're just like, oh, we're gonna do a little old school. And then like when there's like a little kid, it's just like, oh, look how cute he is. And then like somebody will do like a sexy dance, and then somebody will do like a really energetic dance and stuff like that. And it's just a fun way to send you out of the theater. But yeah, this was really fun. Thank you everybody for your questions.
Thank you.
We will be back in 2 weeks, not next week, 2 weeks. We will be back with a Gripe House episode where Rob and I will get our annual gripes about film industry or specific movies.
Get our claws in.
Or fandom, and we'll get our claws in, we'll dig in, we'll get nasty, because that's what the Gripe House is all about.
Enter the Gripe House.
Enter the Gripe House. So until next time.
These seats are reserved for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Come back, not next week, the weekend.
Yeah. They're here.
They're going to be here.
Get them.
They're right here.